Morning, Thomas. How are you doing today?
A little chilly, but life's good.
I
Yeah.
know it's kind of came on quick. I'm not ready for this winter time to come yet, but enjoy the last little bits of fall that we have.
Yeah, I'm gonna need some PT on my ice scraping arm. Is getting more work than I
That's
wanted
true.
it to. So
That's true. Great weekend last weekend too. So I say congrats to you on a big weekend. Had some awesome results at Big Tens.
Yeah.
State meet was a ton of fun to keep track of. So kind of shout out to the Badgers. Gotta give a shout out to Onalaska.
Yeah.
They crushed it.
Huge.
Ran great.
Yeah.
So fun to kind of get excited about
Yeah.
that championship season. Looking forward to head to more collegiate championship stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of our athletes are coming to the conclusion of their season,
Yep.
right? Finishing up marathons. Got a couple people running marathons this weekend we're excited about, but most folks are either on a break or just slowly getting back from a break.
Right.
And I think a good thing to talk about and to kind of program for people and figure out how we communicate this is what do we focus on in this kind of re-entry into training.
Right.
Right, we're not doing a lot of workouts. Mileage is kind of building back up. So what's the purpose? Is this still like, just kind of go out for runs, put the shoes on, and just get out and get the volume in and the time in? Or is there something intentional that you're focusing on?
Right. Yeah, and I think that's kind of that. Whatever the season looks like, kind of overall, our general philosophy is we go from general training, just sort of getting better as a runner as a whole, focusing down as we get closer and closer to that goal race to being most specific about it. So now's that time at the broad end of the funnel where we can do a lot of different things that are just about how we move, how strong we are, and the way we operate internally when we're running, whether that's a mile or whether that's a 50 mile.
Right.
So now is that opportunity, and I don't know, it's kind of a fun chance to do it. And there's certain things that at the time of the year, the seasons around here really shape and sort of like steer us towards anyways. And I think there's a pretty organic flow to doing some sorts of those things that are planting the seeds for long-term goals.
Right. And I mean, I'm a little biased as a physical therapist. So like I'm big into more of the quote unquote prevention stuff, even though I don't think you can prevent anything, but doing some of the strength training, mobility work, things like that, just being focused on your routine. I think this is a great time to build that routine because most of us let that routine kind of fall to the wayside, especially when we get into deep training volumes or workouts or start tapering and then you have time off, right? That routine becomes kind of second nature, or not second nature, but second fiddle to what we're doing as the focus of training.
Right.
So I think it's a good time you get your volume in, you get the focus on doing your running, but you're really intentional about getting in those pieces that are going to help you become a better athlete and a better mover so that you can execute that movement during running.
Yeah. Big upside on that routine is that accountability factor.
Yeah.
It's cold. We're further away from goal races than we almost ever are.
Yeah.
And being able to have that routine of not thinking about like, oh man, it's 17 degrees outside. Like, do I really want to go out? That routine where you're just executing, you sort of know what you do, build it in, and just take care of business. That can be a huge asset for looking for a boost in accountability through this time of the year.
Yeah, and being intentional about finding an accountability partner is huge. Whether that's a coach or whether that's just a buddy that you've got downtown across the street, finding those people and connecting with them is really, really important during this time, just to hold both of you accountable to progressing into the next training cycle, next phase of that training cycle. What are a couple things that you use intentionally at this time to help kind of promote some of that movement and that quality movement?
Yeah, I think we try to do a lot of our runs, medium distance runs, long runs, especially over hills. Just sort of use that opportunity. We're not as worried about pace. We're not trying to like absolutely crush straight hill repeats or even do as many short hill sprints, but just kind of getting that body used to producing power and being able to move well in the midst of a run at a steady but not incredible pace, and being able to just vary the terrain so you get used to moving up, down, and flat, and you can do it all pretty smoothly.
Right. Awesome. And it's a nice time of year to just be able to go out and enjoy the leaves. We're losing some right now, but you just get out in the country roads or you go through the Arboretum or something like that. And it's a beautiful place to just kind of roll through the hills, but also enjoy some of the scenery. Yeah. One thing I like to do is being focused on still getting in some of the drills.
Yeah.
A lot of people will kind of forget about that if they're not doing their workouts or races, but still kind of focusing on that 1-2 days a week, just getting in those drills, setting aside that 5 minutes that it's going to take, whether you're doing some pre-run stuff beforehand, doing some stuff afterwards before strides, getting that in a couple days a week is still beneficial. It's not hard, right? We're not getting a huge spike in heart rate. We're not putting in a ton of effort, but we're just staying consistent with how we're moving, refining those movement patterns, which is the same thing that you're doing when you're running on the hills, right? You're not blasting the hill, but you're still focusing on good mechanics when you're running through that. So getting in drills, getting in strides still, not worried about speed, more worried about how you're moving.
Yeah.
Right? And big focus.
100%. I think that using those strides, using the pickups and stuff like that, sort of within runs, especially once we get really, really cold out there. Nice way to just stay in touch and not look at the watch for a 20 or 30-second pickup. Just sort of be like, hey, like let me focus on one component of my mechanics at a time. And if I can sort of master that, we talk a lot about running being a coordination sport, even though most of us wound up here because we aren't coordinated. But like being able to get the brain and body to work together well, like we can work that at this point so significantly, and especially when it's not like, hey, my goal 5K pace is this, I've got to be able to run this. It's like I've got to feel like this. I get to see how does it like play with my stride to do slightly different things.
Right. And running is a skill, right? That's what we're talking about the coordination thing. And you have to intentionally work on that skill and refine that skill to get better at running. And the work we put in now to do that, just focusing on stride mechanics, whether you're looking at foot strike or heel recovery or arm carriage or things like that, is going to help progress some of the speed stuff that you're doing down the road, right? You're going to feel more efficient and be more efficient when you are approaching 5K pace or beyond, or whatever your kind of goal race is. So putting that work in now, even though it's not always the sexiest thing to do, is going to help you down the road. And being really unstructured, I think, is fun right now. People need that kind of mental break from, okay, what's my watch telling me to do, or how far am I going to run for this? Run to the next sign. Like, find a point and say, okay, from here until that point, I'm going to focus on this aspect of my running mechanics, whether it's your arm carriage, heel recovery, whatever you want to do. Or if you're doing some strides and pickups, don't wait till the end of your run when you're going to sit out in the cold and freeze to do it. Just throw them in the middle of your run. Do a slight little pickup, wait 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you want, and then throw in another one. It can be really unstructured. It doesn't have to have this like prescription written down on your hand of what you're going to do for the workout. Have some fun with it, but focus on and know that you're actually progressing yourself as a runner from a skill standpoint right now. And you're not going to be able to make up this time. You can't kind of just like blow this season off, this fall, part of the winter. A lot of people I know that don't think about winter running as it's just like base volume. Like just go ahead and get the volume. But this is a good time to work on aerobic capacity, but also to work on your skill and refinement of movement patterns.
Sure. Now, one thing that I seem run into all the time with all levels of folks is like there seems to be more injury potential in the winter than any other time of the year. We lose a lot of that soft surface. We've got slick roads some of the times. It's colder out there. What are the things that we can do to be intentional and preventative to, like you say, not like reduce like any injuries, but reduce the risk of incidents?
Right, and that's a big thing for me is I don't believe in injury prevention, right? It's all risk mitigation, right? There's this balance back and forth of the things that are going to kind of increase your capacity, but then also take away from your capacity, and you're balancing this activity and this tolerance to that activity, which is just how well you can recover. So a lot of the things that I focus on right now is listening to your coach and being gradual with that return. A lot of people can get carried away because they're not focusing on a race or they're not doing workouts. They're like, well, I can just go out and get my volume in, and they almost feel like they have to work constantly, right? And sometimes right now is just go out and you're getting in these just easy runs. You're working on movement patterns and you're not focused on being fatigued by the end of the day. And there's just being intentional and I think self-confidence and self-aware is a big thing right now that people will lack because they don't. We get to that confirmation bias from, okay, I did this hard 4-mile tempo run or whatever. I am fit. Like I'm in a good spot. I can take tomorrow easy because I put the work in now. And maybe for a month or so now, you don't have that. And just being aware of that and that you do have that bias and do have that understanding is okay because most of us have that. But know that you have that is going to be important to help quote unquote prevent injuries. But then I think also starting to focus on some of your weaknesses. There's performance tests that we can do, and we can maybe post some of these videos, and there's tests that you can do to see, okay, where are we at with regards to like single leg stance and ankle mobility and big toe mobility and hip strength and quad, eccentric quad control. And there's a ton of different things, plyometrics, jumping. Where do you have a limitation? And then gradually addressing and slowly incorporating that limitation into your routine now, because you don't necessarily have those other stressors like workouts, right? Or extremely long runs that you can make time to work on some of your weaknesses during this fall and winter season. And a lot of people, I feel like, just kind of blow that off to the side and they think about this as kind of a sub-tier training cycle, right? Or part of that training cycle where it's not quite as important because it doesn't have that workout intensity aspect that most of us are striving for. So I think, the big two things are most people, from my perspective, want intensity constantly, right? And we get a lot of confidence off of intensity. And then they also don't look at some of the weaknesses and limitations and take advantage of this extra time they have to start implementing the routine to work on those.
Yeah.
Did that answer kind of?
Yeah, I think that, especially you come off a time where you're so fit and like you're maybe as fit as you've ever been in your entire life, and you come back and you know that you're not supposed to be as strong after a break, and sort of gently building back and being okay, not rushing and letting the training take its time, that it's water washing away and you can't rush the process. You kind of just let the water flow as it goes. And it's a cool time to maybe create a little stream to carve out something different.
Yeah. And you're going to feel like Bambi. You're going to feel like you can't walk or run before, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be really awkward, and that's how it's supposed to be.
Yep.
That doesn't mean you need to go blast some hill repeats or some hill sprints to get that coordination back. Just the body and the central nervous system, your bones, tendons, ligaments, they need that break.
Yep.
And we need to be smart about that. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I tell people, if once you feel like you're ready to start running again, you need to take a couple extra days before you can actually get into it. All the time I have people now like just finished 2 marathons in a month, and they're like, yeah, I'm itching to go. I'm going to run 3 days later. Like, okay, we got to have a little bit of give and take. We can do some movement, but we need to be intentional about taking that time off. And it's a hard thing because we identify ourselves as runners and we don't have running. We feel like we're losing part of us. But knowing that this is part of the process that's going to help build a better you is what we need to focus on.
100%.